Princess stood in the grand hall of the imperial palace, her hands trembling inside the sleeves of her ceremonial robes. The silver fabric felt heavy against her blue skin, and the traditional armor pieces pressed uncomfortably against her shoulders. She wanted to run. She wanted to scream. But princesses of the empire did not show weakness, especially not today. Today was her wedding day. Today she would marry a human. The thought made her stomach twist with fear. All her life had heard stories about humans. They were violent creatures who conquered worlds and destroyed anyone who stood in their way. They fought wars over the smallest disagreements. They showed no mercy to their enemies. The propaganda videos she had seen in school showed human soldiers with weapons, their faces twisted in rage as they attacked. Her teachers had warned that humans could not be trusted, that they only understood strength and violence. And now she was supposed to marry one of them. Her father, Emperor, had explained the situation to her 3 months ago. The Cold War between the Empire and humanity had lasted for decades. Both sides were tired of the tension, the military buildup, the constant threat of real war. They needed peace. But after so many years of hostility, neither side trusted the other enough to simply sign a treaty. They needed something stronger, a bond, a marriage. Had begged her father to choose someone else. She had 2 brothers who could marry human women, but her father had been firm. The humans wanted a princess and was the eldest daughter. It was her duty to her people. The fate of billions rested on this union. So here she stood, waiting for her husband to arrive. The doors at the far end of the hall opened. His breathing quickened. Through the entrance walked a group of human diplomats in their dark formal suits, and behind them came the man himself. Captain Park, the Iron Wolf, the human warrior she was about to marry. He was tall, much taller than most men. His dark hair was neatly combed, and he wore a formal military uniform covered in medals and ribbons. Had researched him, trying to understand what kind of monster she was being given to. His military record was impressive and terrifying. He had fought in dozens of battles. He had commanded ships and soldiers. His nickname, the Iron Wolf, was known across the galaxy. As he walked toward her, noticed his eyes. They were dark brown and they looked kind. No, that could not be right. She must be seeing wrong. Humans were not kind. The ceremony began. A priest spoke ancient words in their language, and a human chaplain responded in his. Barely heard any of it. Her mind was racing with fears about what would happen after the ceremony ended. Would he hurt her? Would he force her to do things she did not want? Would he show his true violent nature once they were alone? The priest called for the ritual binding, the moment when the couple would join hands and speak their vows. Stepped closer to her. Could smell something strange, probably human cologne or some other scent from his world. Her bioluminescent patterns, the glowing marks on her skin that showed her emotions, flickered rapidly between blue and purple, fear and distress. Extended his hand toward her. She stared at it for a moment, this human hand that might strike her or grab her too roughly, but she had no choice. Slowly, she reached out and placed her hand in his. His touch was warm, gentle, not at all what she expected. His fingers wrapped around hers carefully as if he was afraid he might hurt her, looked up at his face, confused. Leaned slightly closer and spoke softly in perfect language. His accent was barely noticeable. I know you don't want this. Neither do I, but perhaps we can make the best of it. Said nothing. She could not find words. Part of her wanted to believe him, but her fear was too strong. This was probably a trick. Humans were clever. They knew how to deceive. He was probably acting gentle now to lower her guard. They spoke their vows. His voice shook as she repeated the ancient words. His voice was steady and calm. When the priest declared them married, there was applause from both sides of the hall. Cameras captured every moment, broadcasting the wedding across both empires. This was not just a marriage. It was a symbol, a promise of peace. But felt no peace, only dread. The reception that followed was torture. Had to smile and greet dignitaries from both empires. She had to pretend everything was wonderful while her new husband stood beside her. Played his part well, she noticed. He smiled and shook hands with everyone. He spoke politely to the nobles and warmly to the human diplomats. He even made small talk with her younger sister, who seemed charmed by him. Everyone seemed to think this was a beautiful moment, but they did not have to go home with him. Finally, after hours of ceremony and celebration, the time came to leave. A diplomatic vessel had been prepared as their residence. It was neutral territory, belonging to neither empire but shared by both. There they would live as symbols of the alliance between their peoples. Followed onto the ship, her attendant close behind. The vessel was large and comfortable, with separate quarters and common areas. Human and crew members worked together to run the ship. Everyone was trying very hard to make this work. A human officer showed them to their residential section. It had a living area, a kitchen, a dining space, and 2 bedroom suites on opposite sides. "I'll take the east suite," said quietly. "You can have the west suite. It has better views of the stars." Blinked. You don't expect us to share a room?" Looked surprised by the question. "No, of course not. Not unless you want to. We barely know each other. You should have your own space." This confused even more. She had expected him to demand his rights as a husband. That was what happened in the old stories about human conquerors. But here he was, offering her privacy and distance. "Thank you," she managed to say. Nodded. "I know this is difficult for you. I want you to feel safe here. If you need anything, just ask. I'll try to stay out of your way." He walked to the east suite and closed the door behind him. Stood in the living area, staring at the closed door. Touched her shoulder gently. "He seems nice," her attendant whispered. "It's an act," said firmly. "He's a human, he's dangerous, we need to be careful." But even as she said the words, doubt crept into her mind. His hand had been so gentle. His voice had been so kind. His offer of separate rooms had been so respectful. Maybe he was a very good actor, or maybe she did not understand humans as well as she thought. That night, alone in her suite, lay awake for hours. She listened for sounds from the other side of the residence, expecting him to come to her door, to demand something, to show his true nature. But the only sound was silence. Eventually, exhaustion claimed her, and she fell into an uneasy sleep. Her last thought before dreams took her was a question she could not answer. What if everything she had been taught about humans was wrong? The first week aboard the diplomatic vessel passed in strange silence. Kept to her suite most of the time, only emerging when necessary. She watched carefully whenever they crossed paths, studying him like a scientist studying a dangerous animal. She was waiting for the moment when his mask would slip, when the real human nature would show itself. But that moment never came. Instead, she noticed small things that confused her. Every morning she would find a tray outside her door with breakfast. The food was always cuisine, her favorites somehow known and prepared perfectly. A small note would accompany each tray in neat handwriting. "Good morning. I hope you slept well." Told herself these were manipulation tactics. Humans were clever. They knew how to make their prey feel comfortable before striking. On the third day, she found a gift outside her door along with breakfast. It was a book, an actual physical book made of paper. The title was The Song of the Seven Moons, a classic piece of literature from her. She had mentioned loving this book once during the wedding reception. He had remembered. Picked up the book carefully. Inside the cover was another note. "I read that humans and both love stories. Perhaps we're not so different. I hope you enjoy this." She should have thrown it away. She should have suspected poison or tracking devices or some other human trick. Instead, she sat in her favorite chair and read the first chapter. The book was genuine, a first edition even. It must have cost a fortune. More gifts appeared over the following days. A crystal that glowed with soft blue light, similar to the bioluminescence of her skin. A recording of traditional music. a small plant from her that was difficult to grow in artificial environments. Each gift came with a note. Each note was kind and respectful, never demanding, never expecting anything in return. Started to venture out more often. She told herself it was curiosity, nothing more. She needed to understand her enemy better. That was all. She began to observe how interacted with the ship's crew. The vessel had both human and personnel, a bold experiment in cooperation. Many of them were nervous, unsure how to work with former enemies, but made it look easy. Watched from a distance as he greeted each crew member by name. He asked about their families, their homes, their traditions. He spoke their language fluently, without the harsh accent most humans had. When a young engineer made a mistake that could have damaged the ship's navigation system, expected to see human rage. Instead, sat down with the young man and calmly walked through the problem. "Mistakes are how we learn," he said gently. "Tell me what happened and we'll figure it out together." The engineer, whose name was, looked ready to cry with relief. He explained his error and helped him fix it without raising his voice once. Afterward, spent an hour teaching additional navigation protocols so the mistake would not happen again. This was not how humans were supposed to behave. This was not the violence and anger had been taught to expect. She mentioned this to one evening. Her attendant had been watching too. "Maybe he's different," suggested carefully. "Maybe not all humans are the same." "Or maybe he's just a very good liar," countered. But even she was starting to doubt that explanation. One night could not sleep. Her mind was too full of questions about humans, about everything she thought she knew. She left her suite and wandered to the common area, thinking she was alone. She was wrong. Sat at a table with a cup of tea, reading something on a data pad. He looked up when she entered, surprise crossing his face. "I'm sorry," he said quickly, standing. "I'll go. This is your time to use the common areas." "Your time," repeated confused. "I've been trying to use the common areas when you're in your suite," explained. "So you don't have to see me if you don't want to. I know my presence makes you uncomfortable." Stared at him. He had been organizing his entire schedule around avoiding her, not to control her, but to give her space. "You don't have to go," she heard herself say. "This is your home too." Hesitated, then slowly sat back down. "Would you like some tea? I have both human and blends." Against her better judgment, sat at the table. "Please." He prepared the tea perfectly, knowing exactly how her people liked it brewed. They sat in silence for a few moments. It was not an uncomfortable silence, realized. It was peaceful. "Why are you being so kind to me?" The question came out before could stop it. Looked surprised. "Why wouldn't I be kind to you?" "Because I'm your wife, your political prize. You could demand things from me. You could force me to behave the way you want. Instead, you avoid me and leave me gifts and give me space. I don't understand." Set down his teacup carefully. "I would never force you to do anything. Yes, we're married, but that doesn't give me ownership of you. You're a person with your own thoughts and feelings and rights. My job is to be a good partner, not a master." "But you're human," said, and immediately wished she could take the words back. To her surprise, smiled sadly. "Yes, I'm human, and I know what you've been taught about us. Some of it is probably even true. We've done terrible things in our history. We've fought each other and hurt each other and nearly destroyed our own world. But we learned. We changed. Most humans now believe that true strength isn't about dominating others. It's about lifting them up." "That's not what the videos showed," said quietly. "Propaganda," said. "Both sides used it. I'm sure humans were shown terrible things about too. It's easier to hate an enemy when you only see the worst of them." They talked for hours that night, told her about Earth, about human history, about the lessons his people had learned through pain and suffering. He told her about his grandmother, Sara, who had survived a terrible war and spent her life building schools for children. He told her about his father, who worked to help different species understand each other. My father used to say that fear and ignorance are the real enemies, said, not each other. He taught me that every species, every person, deserves respect and kindness until they prove otherwise. Found herself sharing her own stories. She told him about growing up in the palace, about the pressure of being a princess, about her fears and doubts. Listened carefully to every word, never interrupting, never judging. When finally returned to her suite, the sun was rising on the nearest planet. She felt something she had not expected to feel around her human husband. She felt safe. Over the following weeks and spent more time together, they shared meals. They watched the stars from the observation deck. They taught each other about their cultures and laughed at misunderstandings. Slowly, carefully, let her guard down. One evening, as they played a board game in the common area, looked at her seriously. I want to ask you something, and you can say no. Her heart jumped with sudden fear. This was it. This was when he would demand something. May I court you properly? Asked. Not as your husband through a political arrangement, but as someone who wants to know you better, as equals. Stared at him. You're already my husband. Why would you need to court me? Because I want you to choose me, said simply. I want you to be with me because you want to, not because you have to. If that means we stay married in name only, that's fine. But if there's a chance you might come to care for me the way I'm starting to care for you, I'd like to try. The bioluminescent patterns on skin began to glow warm gold. It was a sign of joy, of happiness. She could not control it. Yes, she whispered, yes, you may court me. Smiled, and for the first time, smiled back without fear. 2 months into their marriage, everything changed. The diplomatic vessel received a distress call from a remote mining colony called Outpost 7. Pirates had attacked the settlement, and hundreds of civilians were trapped inside. Was in the common area with when the alert came through. She watched as his entire demeanor shifted. The kind, gentle man she had come to know disappeared, replaced by something harder, a soldier. We need to respond immediately, said to the ship's captain over the communication system. Prepare a rescue team. Old fears returned. This was it. This was the moment she would see the real, the warrior, the iron wolf, the violent human she had always been told to fear. I'm coming with you, she announced. Turned to her, concern clear on his face. It's too dangerous. These pirates are ruthless. They won't care that you're a princess. I'm not just a princess, said firmly. I trained at the Royal Academy. I know combat. And this is a diplomatic mission as much as a military one. The colony has both human and residents. They need to see us working together. She could see wanted to argue, but he also respected her enough not to forbid her. Finally, he nodded. Stay close to me, please. The rescue team assembled quickly. 12 soldiers, 6 human and 6 all volunteers. They took a smaller ship from the diplomatic vessel and flew to Outpost 7. During the journey, Watched briefed the team. Our priority is civilian safety, he said clearly. We get them out first. The pirates are secondary. What if they fight back? Asked a human soldier named. Defend yourselves and protect the civilians, replied. But take prisoners when possible. These pirates might have families too. They might have been forced into this life. We're not executioners. Was surprised by his words. She had expected him to talk about victory and defeating the enemy. Instead, he talked about mercy and protection. When they arrived at Outpost 7, the situation was worse than they thought. The pirates had taken over the main building and were holding civilians hostage. Their ships surrounded the colony, weapons ready. Studied the layout on his data pad. We'll split into 3 teams. Team 1 creates a distraction at the east entrance. Team 2 evacuates civilians through the mining tunnels. Team 3, that's you and me, we go through the maintenance ducts to reach the hostages. The plan was risky. Felt her fear return, but she pushed it down. She had trained for situations like this. She could do this. They moved quickly. Team 1 drew the pirates' attention with simulated weapons fire. Team 2 began evacuating miners through the underground tunnels, and along with 2 other soldiers, crawled through the tight maintenance ducts toward the central building. The ducts were hot and cramped. His heart pounded as they got closer to the sound of voices. Through a grate, she could see pirates arguing with each other. Some wanted to surrender. Others wanted to fight to the death. "We go on 3, whispered. "Remember, protect the civilians first." They burst through the grate into the room below. Everything happened fast. Pirates reached for weapons, moved like water, fast and smooth. He disarmed one pirate with a quick strike and knocked another unconscious with his weapon, but then saw something that made her blood run cold. A pirate was aiming his weapon at a small child who had broken free from the hostage group. The child was crying, frozen with fear. The pirate's finger moved toward the trigger. Threw himself between the child and the pirate. The plasma blast hit him in the shoulder instead of hitting the child. Cried out in pain but did not fall. He fired back, hitting the pirate's weapon hand, disarming him without killing him. Rushed forward, her own weapon ready. She helped secure the pirates while dropped to one knee, his left arm hanging uselessly. The child he had saved ran to him, throwing small arms around his leg. "It's okay," said to the child through gritted teeth. "You're safe now, I've got you." More pirates appeared. The battle became chaotic, fought alongside and the others, protecting the civilians who were running toward the evacuation points. She saw things that day that changed her understanding of everything. She saw talk down a young pirate who could not have been more than 18 years old. The boy was shaking, his weapon trembling in his hands. "You don't want to do this," said calmly, despite the pain he must have been feeling. "Put down the weapon. You can still have a future. You can still make better choices." The young pirate dropped his weapon and surrendered, tears streaming down his face. She saw one of the human soldiers suggest leaving wounded pirates behind to speed up the evacuation. His voice turned to ice. "We don't leave anyone behind who can be saved. That's what separates us from them. Everyone gets medical attention. Everyone." She saw carry an unconscious woman on his back while his wounded shoulder bled through his uniform. He refused to stop, refused to rest, until every single civilian was safe. The battle lasted less than an hour, but it felt like days. When it was finally over, when all the civilians were evacuated and the pirates were either captured or had fled, found in the makeshift medical area. He was sitting on the ground, his shoulder bandaged but still bleeding. The child he had saved was sitting in his lap, refusing to let go of his uniform. A medic was trying to treat his wound. "Sir, you need to let me work. The burn is serious." "Everyone else first," said firmly. "Civilians, then prisoners, then soldiers." "You're bleeding," the medic protested. "I can wait." Walked over and sat down next to him. She took his good hand in hers. "You saved her," she said, looking at the child. "You took a plasma blast for her." Looked confused, as if he could not understand why she was surprised. "Of course I did. She's a child. What else would I do?" "You could have let her die," said quietly. "You could have saved yourself." "No," said simply. "I couldn't have. That's not who I am. That's not who humans are, despite what you've been taught." The child in his lap had finally fallen asleep, exhausted from trauma and fear. Held her carefully, despite his pain, making sure she felt safe. He took a data pad from his pocket with his good hand and pulled up a file. "This is a children's story from Earth," he said softly. "My grandmother used to read it to me. It always helped when I was scared." He began to read aloud translating the human story into her language. His voice was gentle, soothing. Other civilians nearby stopped and listened. Even some of the wounded pirates seemed calmer hearing his voice. "Watch this man, this human warrior who everyone called the Iron Wolf. He had fought with skill and efficiency. He had been a perfect soldier, but in all his actions she saw something else. something more important. Compassion, mercy, protection of the weak, care for enemies, sacrifice for strangers. This was what human nobility looked like. This was what she had been too afraid and too blind to see before. When finally allowed the medic to treat his shoulder, stayed by his side. The child woke up and cried when she thought was leaving, picked her up gently and held her. "He's not going anywhere," promised the little girl. "He'll be right here, he'll keep you safe." The child looked at with wide eyes. "Is he your mate?" "Yes," said, and realized she meant it. Not because of the political marriage, but because of the man she had come to know. The man she had just watched sacrifice himself for a stranger's child. "Yes, he is." Looked at her with surprise and hope. His bioluminescent patterns, the ones humans did not have, could not show his emotions, but his eyes said everything. That night, after they returned to the diplomatic vessel, after the child had been reunited with surviving family members, after Shoulder had been properly treated, went to his suite. She knocked on his door. He opened it, surprise on his face. He was shirtless, his shoulder covered in bandages. "Is everything okay?" "I was wrong about you," she said. "I was wrong about humans. I'm sorry it took me so long to see the truth." Smiled softly. "You weren't wrong to be cautious. Trust is earned, not demanded." Stepped closer. "You earned it today. You earned it every day since we married. I just was too afraid to accept it." She reached up and touched his face gently. "Thank you for showing me what real courage looks like, what real nobility means." Covered her hand with his. "Does this mean you'll consider moving into the master suite, together?" His patterns glowed warm gold. "Yes, together." The weeks following the Outpost 7 rescue changed everything between, and they moved into the master suite together, though insisted on giving her own space within it. They shared meals, shared stories, shared their lives in ways that felt natural and comfortable. Found herself seeking his company rather than avoiding it. She wanted to understand him better, to understand his people better. One evening, as they sat on the observation deck watching distant stars, she asked him the question that had been bothering her. "Tell me about human wars. Tell me the truth, not propaganda." Was quiet for a long moment. "Are you sure you want to know? Some of it is not pretty." "I need to know," said. "I need to understand where you come from." So told her. He told her about Earth's bloody history, about the wars humans had fought against each other for thousands of years. He told her about conflicts over resources, over religious beliefs, over the color of skin. He told her about weapons so terrible they could destroy entire cities in seconds, and how humans had nearly destroyed themselves. "We came very close to extinction," said quietly. "During what we call the last Earth War, we almost ended everything. Billions died. Our planet was. When it finally ended, our survivors had to make a choice. Keep fighting and finish destroying ourselves, or change everything about how we thought about conflict." "What changed?" asked. "We realized that our greatest enemy wasn't each other. It was our own fear and ignorance. We created a new philosophy, a new way of thinking. We called it the elevation principle. It means that we rise by raising others. True strength isn't about dominating or destroying. It's about protecting and building." Told her about his grandmother, Sarah, who had survived the last Earth War as a child. She had lost her parents, her home, everything. But instead of becoming bitter, she dedicated her life to building schools in the ruins. "Education is how we prevent the next war," she used to say. She taught children of former enemies side by side, showing them that they were all human, all deserving of dignity. "My father followed her example," continued. "He became a cultural specialist. He believed that the same principles that stopped human wars could prevent wars between different species, understanding each other, respecting each other, finding common ground. He spent his life building bridges between humans and other races." "Is that why you speak so well?" asked. Nodded. "My father made me learn 3 alien languages before I was 15. He said if I wanted to understand the universe, I needed to see it through different eyes. I chose because I loved your literature, your poetry, the way your people see beauty in everything. Felt warmth spread through her chest. I never knew humans read our poetry. There's a human saying, said with a smile. Good art transcends all boundaries. Your stories touch something universal. Love, loss, hope, fear. We all feel these things whether we're human or any other species. They talked late into the night, shared her own stories about growing up in the palace. She told him about the pressure she felt as a princess, always needing to be perfect, always needing to represent her people. She told him about her fears of disappointing her father, of not being strong enough, of failing at everything. I was terrified of you, she admitted. Not just because you're human. I was terrified that I would be a terrible wife, that I would fail at this marriage and cause a war between our peoples, that billions would die because I couldn't make you happy. Took her hand gently. I was terrified too. I was terrified I would be exactly the monster you expected, that I would somehow hurt you or fail you or prove that all the propaganda about humans was true. I was so afraid of destroying the chance for peace between our peoples. You were afraid, looked at him in surprise, but you're the Iron Wolf. Everyone says you're fearless. Everyone is wrong, said with a sad smile. I feel fear all the time. During the battle at Outpost 7, I was afraid. When I threw myself in front of that child, I was terrified. But my grandmother taught me that courage isn't the absence of fear. It's doing what's right despite the fear. That's beautiful, whispered. She was a wise woman, said. I wish you could have met her. She would have loved you. She always said that prejudice was just fear in disguise, and that the cure for fear was knowledge and compassion. Over the following weeks, their conversations continued. They taught each other about their cultures, their histories, their hopes for the future. Showed human music, and she was surprised by how emotional it made her feel. He showed her human films, and they laughed together at the silly parts and cried together at the sad parts. Taught about meditation practices, about how her people used bioluminescent patterns to communicate emotions without words. She taught him traditional dances and was delighted when he tried to follow the complicated steps, even though he was clumsy at first. Humans aren't very graceful, are we? He joked after stepping on her foot for the third time. You're learning, laughed. That's what matters. Besides, you should see me try to play human sports. I nearly broke my arm trying to catch a baseball. You tried to play baseball, looked at her with surprise and delight. I wanted to understand your culture too, said. I've been studying human customs and traditions. I want to know everything about your people, about you. Something shifted in his expression. He stopped dancing and looked at her seriously. I need to tell you something. I need you to know that my feelings for you have changed. This isn't just about politics anymore, not for me. I care about you. I think I'm falling in love with you. His patterns glowed bright gold, so bright that had to squint. You love me. I'm falling in love with you, corrected gently. I know it's soon. I know we're still learning about each other, but I wanted you to know the truth. My feelings are real. This isn't duty anymore. It's choice. Tears filled his eyes, happy tears. I'm falling in love with you too. I didn't think it was possible. I thought I would always be afraid of you, always see you as the enemy. But you're not the enemy. You're the kindest, bravest, most honorable person I've ever met. You're my partner, my friend, my love. Cupped her face gently with both hands. May I kiss you? Yes, breathed. Their first kiss was gentle and sweet. Patterns glowed so brightly that the entire room lit up with golden light. When they pulled apart, both of them were smiling. I have something for you, said. He pulled a small box from his pocket and opened it. Inside was a ring made of both crystal and human metal, merged together into something beautiful and unique. This is a human tradition. We give rings to show commitment. I had this made for you. It represents us. Two different worlds, two different peoples coming together to create something new. took the ring with trembling hands. She slipped it onto her finger and admired how it caught the light. "It's perfect, but I don't have anything to give you." "Yes, you do," said softly. "You've given me your trust, your friendship, your love. That's more valuable than any object in the universe." They held each other close, watching the stars through the observation window. Two people from different worlds, with different histories and different fears, finding love in the most unlikely place. "I want to visit Earth someday," said. "I want to see your world, walk where your grandmother walked, meet your family." "And I want to visit your," replied. "See the palace where you grew up, meet your people as your husband, not just as a political arrangement." "We'll visit both," decided. "We'll show everyone that this peace is real, that love between our peoples is possible." Kissed her forehead. "Together, we'll build bridges, just like my father wanted, just like your father hoped for when he agreed to this marriage." "Together," agreed, her patterns glowing with pure joy. For the first time since their wedding day, looked to the future with hope instead of fear. She had found something she never expected to find in an arranged marriage to a human warrior. She had found her home. 6 months after their wedding, the fragile peace between humans and the Empire faced its greatest test, and were sleeping peacefully in their shared quarters when an urgent alert woke them. The ship's communication officer appeared on their screen, his face pale with worry. "Captain Park, Princess, we have an emergency. There's been a coup on the General has seized control of the capital. Emperor is being held hostage." Felt her blood turn to ice. "My father, is he hurt?" "We don't know, Your Highness. General is demanding that the alliance with humanity be dissolved. He claims that humans will eventually betray the Empire and that this peace is built on lies. He says if humanity truly wants peace, they should withdraw all ships and personnel from space immediately." Was already out of bed, pulling on his uniform. "What about the citizens? Are there casualties?" "Yes, sir. Forces attacked the Royal Guard. There are reports of fighting in the streets. Many people are injured or dead." Stood on shaking legs. Her father was in danger. Her people were in danger. Everything they had built together was falling apart. Within the hour had called an emergency meeting with both human and senior officers. They gathered in the briefing room, tension thick in the air. On the communication screen, Human Admiral appeared from Earth's Fleet Command. His face was stern. "Captain Park, we've received General's demands. The Council is debating our response." "And what response are they considering?" asked carefully. "Some Council members see this as an opportunity," Admiral said, his expression troubled. "With the Empire in chaos, we could press our advantage. We could negotiate better terms for ourselves, perhaps even gain territory or resources." "No," his voice was hard as steel. "Absolutely not. Captain, I understand your emotional attachment to your wife and her people, but we need to think strategically. This isn't about emotion, Admiral. This is about who we are as a species. We don't build peace on the suffering of our friends. We don't take advantage of their crisis. That's exactly the kind of behavior that made other species fear us in the first place." "Some of the Council members believe might be right," the Admiral continued. "They think eventually there will be conflict between our peoples. Why not control it now on our terms?" Watchd's face. She saw anger there, but also determination. "Tell the Council this," he said clearly. "We save them. We save Emperor and we stop this coup. We prove that humanity can be trusted, even when we have every excuse to betray that trust. We show the galaxy what human honor really means." "Captain, that could be seen as an act of war." "Then let it be an act of war on the side of justice. I'm taking a rescue team to the... You can court-martial me later if you want, but I won't stand by and let Emperor die. He trusted us with his daughter. He believed in peace. I won't let him down." The Admiral was quiet for a long moment. Then, surprisingly, he smiled. "I was hoping you'd say that. I'll hold off the Council as long as I can. Go save your family, Captain. Show them what humanity is really made of." The communication ended. Turned to his officers. "I need volunteers. This mission is dangerous and possibly illegal by both human and laws. No one will blame you if you stay behind." Every single officer, both human and, raised their hands. "We're with you, Captain," said Lieutenant. The young engineer had helped months ago. "You've shown us what honor looks like. Now let us show you what loyalty looks like." Stepped forward. "I'm coming too." "No. Don't you dare try to protect me now," said fiercely. "This is my father, my people, my home. I grew up in that palace. I know every corridor, every secret passage, every weak point in the security system. You need me." Looked like he wanted to argue, but he knew she was right. "Stay close to me, please." "Always promised." They assembled a strike team of 20 soldiers, the best fighters from both species. They took 2 fast attack ships and flew straight to the. During the journey, reviewed the palace layouts with the team, showing them how to get inside without being detected. "There's an old maintenance tunnel system," she explained. "They were built centuries ago for servants and repairs. Most people have forgotten about them, but I used to play in them as a child. We can use them to reach the throne room." When they arrived at the site broke heart. The beautiful capital city was burning in places. Ships surrounded the planet and his soldiers patrolled the streets, but there were also signs of resistance. Citizens were fighting back, refusing to accept the coup. The rescue team slipped past the orbital defenses using stealth technology. They landed outside the city and made their way through the abandoned tunnels had described. The tunnels were dark and cramped, but exactly where she remembered them. As they moved through the palace, they encountered soldiers. Battles broke out in the corridors where had played as a child. She fought alongside, their training and trust in each other making them a perfect team. The human and soldiers worked together seamlessly, protecting each other, trusting each other. Took a plasma burn to his side, protecting a soldier. The soldier returned the favor minutes later, taking a hit meant for a human. They were no longer 2 separate groups. They were one team. As they fought their way toward the throne room, they freed groups of loyal palace guards and royal staff. Many of them joined the rescue mission, swelling their numbers. Word spread quickly through the palace. The princess had returned. The human captain was fighting for the emperor. Finally, they reached the throne room. General stood before the throne where emperor was being held. The emperor looked tired but unharmed. Elite guards surrounded them, weapons ready. "Well, well," said mockingly. "The little princess returns with her human pet. How touching." "Release my father," demanded, stepping forward. Moved with her, never leaving her side. "Why would I do that? The emperor is weak. He sold you to the humans like property. He betrayed everything the empire stands for." "My father chose peace over war," said firmly. "He chose to give our peoples a chance at something better. There's no weakness in that, only wisdom." "Peace with humans," laughed bitterly. "Humans are conquerors. They'll turn on us eventually. Better to strike first while we have the chance." "You're wrong," said, his voice calm despite the pain from his injuries. "You're wrong about what humans are. You're wrong about what this alliance means." "Am I? Then why are you here, human? Surely Earth Command wants to take advantage of our chaos. Surely they sent you to negotiate better terms for yourselves." "No," said simply. "They sent me to save my family." Seemed taken aback. "Your family?" "Yes," gestured to Emperor. "My father-in-law who trusted me with his daughter. My wife who trusted me with her heart. My people, both human and who believe in what we're building together. I'm here because that's what you do for family. You protect them. You stand with them, even when it's hard, even when it's dangerous. That's what nobility really means." Stepped closer to, "You asked if I betrayed my people for a human. You're right that I made a choice, but it wasn't betrayal. I chose to see past fear and prejudice. I chose to give humans a chance to prove they were more than the propaganda claimed. And you know what I discovered? She took his hand in hers. I discovered that true nobility has nothing to do with species or bloodlines. It's about choices. It's about protecting those who cannot protect themselves. It's about building instead of destroying. My husband has shown me what real nobility looks like. He's shown it every day since we met. And it shames me that I needed a human to teach me what my own people seem to have forgotten. Murmurs spread through the throne room. Own guards were looking uncertain. Emperor, still seated on his throne, spoke for the first time. My daughter speaks truth. Release me, this coup is over. Look around you. Humans and fighting side by side to save me. This is what I hoped for when I arranged the marriage. This is what real peace looks like. Looked around wildly. More palace guards were arriving, drawn by the commotion. Citizens had followed the rescue team into the palace. Humans and stood together, united in purpose. Slowly, guards began lowering their weapons. They had families too. They had seen the destruction the coup caused. They didn't want to fight anymore. Himself stood alone, his coup crumbling around him. You're all fools, he said bitterly. You'll regret trusting them. Maybe, said, but we'd rather try and fail than never try at all. That's what hope means, General, and hope is stronger than fear. In the end, surrendered without further bloodshed. His supporters, seeing how the humans had risked everything to save the emperor, began to question their own prejudices. The coup collapsed as quickly as it had begun. Emperor was freed. He embraced tightly, tears streaming down his face. My daughter, my brave, wise daughter, I'm so proud of you. Then he turned to and did something that shocked everyone. He bowed deeply, a gesture of profound respect in culture. You saved my life. You saved my empire. You saved my daughter's heart. I could not have chosen a better husband for her. In the days that followed, as they began to heal, and became symbols of what cooperation could achieve, they traveled between worlds together, two ambassadors who had found love in the most unlikely circumstances. News of their story spread across both empires. Humans who had feared them began to see them differently. Who had feared, humans started to question their prejudices. It wasn't instant and it wasn't easy, but change was happening. 1 year after their wedding, came to with a data pad. I need to show you something, he said nervously. On the screen were adoption papers. There's a child, he explained. The little girl from Outpost 7. Do you remember her? Her name is. She lost her parents in the pirate attack. She's been in foster care, but she's not doing well. She has nightmares. She doesn't trust anyone. Except you, said, understanding immediately. She asks about me, admitted. The social workers say she draws pictures of the day I saved her. She told them she wants to live with the nice human who wasn't afraid. I know I should have asked you first before starting the paperwork, but I couldn't stop thinking about her. She needs a home. She needs a family. Tears filled his eyes. You beautiful, wonderful fool. Of course we'll adopt her. We're her family now. They brought home the following week. The little girl was shy at first, hiding behind his legs. But when she saw the room they had prepared for her, filled with toys and books and a bed shaped like a spaceship, her face lit up with joy. This is all mine, she whispered. All yours, confirmed, kneeling down to her level. And we're all yours too. Your father and I, we're your family now. Forever. Looked between them, father and mother. Yes, said, picking her up gently, if that's okay with you. Threw her small arms around his neck and buried her face in his shoulder. She was crying, but could see they were happy tears. That night, as they put to bed in her new room, the little girl held both their hands. Tell me a story, she asked. Smiled. How about the story of how your mother and I met? It's a good story. It's about a princess who was very brave and a soldier who learned that love is stronger than fear. As told their story, watched her family, her husband, her daughter, her people, both human and working together to build something better. She had been so afraid once. Afraid of humans, afraid of her husband, afraid of the future. Now she knew the truth. The future wasn't something to fear. It was something to build, one act of kindness at a time, one bridge between peoples at a time, one family at a time. True nobility wasn't about power or conquest, it was about this: love, family, hope, humanity. And that, thought as fell asleep holding both their hands, was the most beautiful thing in the entire galaxy.